All right, let's get right into it. We're about to unpack one of the most harrowing stories in all of naval history. This is the story of the USS Indianapolis, a story about a legendary warship, a mission that was top secret, and an unbelievable failure by the very system that was supposed to protect its own people.
We're going to start by dropping you right into the middle of the chaos, right at the moment everything went sideways. Because to really get the full story, you first have to feel just how fast, how terrifyingly fast this all happened.
So, picture this. It's July 30th, 1945. World War II is in its brutal final act, and the USS Indianapolis is out there sailing completely alone in the huge dark expanse of the Philippine Sea. Then, just after midnight, a flash on the horizon.
2. That's how many torpedoes from the Japanese sub I-58 found their mark. They slammed right into the cruiser's side. The first one basically ripped the bow right off the ship. The second hit midship, sparking a massive fire that set off a chain reaction of explosions. And this number is just mind-blowing. 12 minutes. That's it. This massive 610-foot heavy cruiser, a ship that had seen 10 major battles, just flipped over and disappeared beneath the waves in less time than it takes to brew a pot of coffee. The order to abandon ship was almost impossible to hear over the sheer chaos.
Out of almost 1,200 men on that ship, about 300 were trapped inside and went down with her, and that left around 900 men floating in the pitch-black, oil-covered water. Their ship was gone, and a new, even worse horror was just beginning.
So you have to be asking yourself, what in the world was a major warship like this doing out there all by itself? No escorts? Nothing? Well, the answer is tied to the mission it had just completed. A mission so secret, it was literally about to change the world.
And you have to understand, this wasn't just some random ship. The Indianapolis was a genuine war hero. I mean, it was the flagship for Admiral Raymond Spruance's entire Fifth Fleet. It had earned 10 battle stars for its service, and it had even taken a direct hit from a kamikaze just months before and lived to tell the tale. This was one tough, proud ship. So here's a quick look at that final fateful journey. After getting repaired from that kamikaze attack, it got this top-secret assignment, a high-speed run from San Francisco to the island of Tinian. And get this, it set a record, making the trip in just 10 days. After dropping off its cargo, it made a quick stop in Guam and then headed for the Philippines. It never made it.
And here it is, the secret. The Indianapolis was carrying the enriched uranium and key components for Little Boy, the atomic bomb that would be dropped on Hiroshima just a week later. The mission was so secret and so urgent that it had to travel alone. An escort would have just slowed it down and drawn way too much attention. A calculated risk, for sure.
So the ship is at the bottom of the ocean. The top-secret mission is complete. But now, the story shifts to the 900 survivors left floating in the middle of nowhere. For them, the real ordeal was just kicking off. This right here is where a wartime tragedy turns into a catastrophic failure of the system. On one side, you have the awful reality for those men in the water, facing dehydration, saltwater poisoning, and just relentless shark attacks. And on the other side, on the Navy's plotting boards, someone just marked the ship as assumed arrival. No one checked. No one realized it was missing. No one was coming for them.
The price of that nearly 4-day delay is just staggering. Just let these numbers sink in. Of the 900 or so men who actually survived the sinking, almost 600 more died in the water. When help finally showed up, there were only 316 men left.
And the craziest part? The rescue didn't happen because the Navy figured out its mistake. Nope. It was pure dumb luck. On August 2nd, a pilot named Lieutenant Wilbur Gwynn was on a routine patrol, happened to look down, saw a huge oil slick, and then saw the men. If he hadn't glanced down at that exact second, it's pretty likely no one would have survived.
So, the survivors are finally rescued, and the world starts to learn about this horrible disaster. But the story takes another tragic turn. The Navy, facing a massive failure of intelligence and procedure, needed a scapegoat.
And so, in a move that was just unheard of, the Navy decided to court-martial the ship's own captain, Charles McVay III. The main charge against him was that he put his ship in danger by not zigzagging, a maneuver to dodge submarines. But here's the thing. His orders said to zigzag at his own discretion, and the visibility that night was terrible.
And then, during the trial, something truly unbelievable happened. The Navy actually brought in Commander Hashimoto, the Japanese sub-commander who sank the ship, to testify, and he said, point blank, that zigzagging would have made no difference at all. He had a clear shot. But for some reason, the Navy just ignored him.
So, Captain McVeigh was convicted. He became the only captain in the entire history of the U.S. Navy to be court-martialed for losing his ship in combat. The verdict basically blamed one man for a massive systemic failure. It haunted him for the rest of his life, even though his surviving crewmen supported him to the very end.
But the story doesn't stop there. For decades, a whole group of people, led by the survivors themselves, refused to let this injustice stand. They fought to clear their captain's name and bring the whole truth to light.
And this journey to get justice is pretty amazing. It started with the survivors, who never, ever blamed their captain. Then, get this, in the 1990s, a middle school student named Hunter Scott did a history fair project on it, and his work actually brought national attention back to the case. All of that work finally led to a congressional resolution in 2000 that officially cleared McVeigh's name. And then, in 2017, they found the ship, confirming everything the survivors had said.
And you know, the effort to get every detail of this story right is still going on. For years, everyone said there were 317 survivors. But just a few years ago, in 2018, historians corrected a small clerical error. The true number was 316. It seems like a tiny change, but it just shows how dedicated people are to honoring every single person with complete accuracy.
So that's where we'll leave it. The story of the USS Indianapolis is so much more than just a shipwreck. It's a powerful lesson about sacrifice, about failure, and about the long, hard fight for justice. And it really forces us to ask a tough question. When the systems that we create to protect people fail them so badly, who's really to blame?